All right, so that was just a little bit there from South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham as he questioned her for 30 minutes, which included references to late-night comedy, religion, also Guantanamo Bay, and so much more.
Yeah, and our chief legal correspondent, Seema Iyer, she's been watching all of it all day, continues to watch all of this. And Seema, what was Lindsey Graham trying to get at right here? And did he have any direct questions for Judge Jackson here?
So what you saw was just his introduction, and he kept looking around at the chamber, kind of, is everybody listening to me? Listen to what I'm doing here, because I'm not going to do what happened to Barrett and Kavanaugh to you. And then he did, at points, try to go into direct lines of questioning, like that faith question, except then he crossed the line into more of her personal opinions, and again, his grievances for prior hearings such as these without asking her, let's say, about her cases. He also went into a line of questioning about Janice Rogers Brown. And this was a black woman, and she was up for an appeals court position. This was 20 years ago, and it didn't go through because of the filibuster. And who did the filibuster at that point 20 years ago? It was Joe Biden. Now, he also, of course, kept harping on his basically disappointment that Judge Childs did not go through with the process. But a lot of people have always said that Judge Jackson was always President Biden's first choice. And before Lindsey Graham left his questioning, he said, so now we know how he's going to vote. He basically said it was problematic, that's a quote for him, that Judge Childs hasn't gone through the process, and that he was not going to, quote, reward the people who tried to torpedo Judge Childs' nomination. And finally, he stormed out of the hearing room and grabbed his Coca-Cola, which I have a problem with, Brian, because I don't like when people have sugar too much. So maybe that's Lindsey Graham's problem, too much sugar in his diet.
And just to point out with Judge Michelle Childs, both Senator Lindsey Graham on the Republican side and also Congressman Jim Clyburn also was a big supporter of Judge Childs out of Columbia. So it was interesting that you had both sides. Both sides. But talking about Ketanji Brown, I mean, she, outside of beyond the historic nomination of this, her criminal defense, was definitely, she was asked some tough questions, but it makes her very different. How so?
She was saying things that I have never, ever heard a nominee say, and specifically about the process of dealing with defendants. And of course, me as a prior defense attorney, I really related to this. She was saying that while she was an appellate federal defender and while she was a judge, she got to have those direct conversations with defendants. And she said that defendants do not understand what they did unless you explain it to them. And this was really illuminating. I just thought it was so different than what you would normally hear. And she also talked about the role of the defense attorney. It is not that you are someone who's going to advocate for the client. You represent someone in the defense of the Constitution. You are interpreting the constitutional rights. And I think this is so important just for general people to understand that being a defense attorney doesn't always mean that you have an ideological stance with everybody's innocent, nobody belongs in jail. And also, the one thing that I find really surprising about her, compared to a lot of other justices in this position, the way she speaks is so conversational. It is kind of what I try to do here, right? Is take these legal concepts
and explain it to legalese, or take that legalese out of it and put it in real terms.
And that's how she speaks.
She really did, especially when she talked about pornography, and Senator Ted Cruz was questioning her about that. I felt like she gave us an inside look as to what her job really is on the Supreme Court, and it was a very conversational way where you could understand it.
And so can we talk about Ted Cruz now?
Well, you can, because if you sort of think about it, talk about distractions and people coming out of the left field. I mean, what does that really do for people's time here? Because this is an important decision. And were there any questions that really made any kind of sense here?
When the questions were posed at prior rulings and cases and litigation, it was absolutely pointed. However, we got to talk about Ted Cruz because he asked her this whole line of questioning about critical race theory. Critical race theory is not a law. It is not. And what you see here, right? He is showing her a children's book. I guess it's a book about critical race theory. And you can see it's all posted up. He tabbed it. He read the whole thing. He told the committee. And behind him, if you can see, there's a poster board that he brought. He had several poster boards on critical race theory. And she was so nice. She kept saying, listen, I don't know about this. I am not an educator. I'm not a teacher. This is not about the law. See, he's reading from it. And this just went on and on for so long. Again, every senator is given 30 minutes. He spent a lot of time talking about this critical race theory. And I will say this again about her temperament. Anytime she was asked a question that I probably would have walked out on, she just took a breath and said, thank you, I'm happy to explain myself.
I love that, the hesitated.
Well, and you have to at this point. And Seema Iyer, thank you so much for breaking it down.
I want to say one other thing. There were other people, Democrats as well, asking her cringy questions, like Blumenthal talking about her emotional intelligence. No place in the hearing room, buddy.